Welcome to College Smart Radio, helping you bring into focus the true cost of college and how to tackle the runaway cost of financing a college education. College Smart Radio is hosted by Beatrice Schultz, a certified financial planner and founder of Westface College Planning. Now, here's your host for College Smart Radio, Beatrice Schultz.
Welcome to College Smart Radio. Most students enter college with a 4-year plan, but changing or adding majors, retaking classes, or taking time off for personal reasons can quickly extend that plan to 5 or even 6 years. While getting the most out of your college experience is important, taking additional semesters to earn your degree most often means paying more in tuition, fees, room and board, and not to mention the lack of income that would have been earned if you'd graduated on time. On today's College Smart Radio program, I'm going to discuss strategies of how to get 4 years worth of college, not for 5 or 6 years of costs, but for only 3 years of costs. Hi, I'm Beatrice Schultz. Welcome to our weekly show, College Smart Radio, where we help you tackle the runaway costs of a college education. Our show is all about bringing up-to-date and practical advice to parents who are dealing with the cost of a college education for their kids. With many private schools costing over $60,000 a year, a UC costing $35,000, and a California State University running $25,000, parents need more help than ever. We bring you that help by sharing ways to pay less, tapping into financial aid, and prioritizing your source of funds to make sure you get through the most expensive years of your life. Based on my own education and experience, I share my insights with you week in and week out. I hold a Bachelor of Science degree in Chemical Engineering and a Master's degree in International Business. I am a certified financial planner and the owner of the San Carlos-based college planning business, Westface College Planning. I host workshops and webinars on college planning and consult with parents on a daily basis. In addition to my insights, I bring in experts in many areas of the college process, from counselors, financial aid professionals, financial professionals, student coaches, parents, and even students. You'll learn firsthand the ins and outs of how to pay for college and survive financially. In addition to our show, you can find lots of powerful information at our website, collegesmartradio.com. We have many articles that I've authored with up-to-date information on navigating the waters of paying for the runaway costs of college. We have a monthly e-newsletter full of content about college planning. We also have posted a glossary of key terms used in the world of college planning, terms like EFC, total cost of attendance, FAFSA, student assets, base year, and so forth. And we have a link to our free community parent workshops and webinars that I host to teach parents about how to pay for college and how the financial aid system really works. Well, let's get into today's show. When time is money, how can you get 4 years worth of a college education for the price of 3? My guest on today's College Smart Radio show has expertise in that area that he's going to share with us. Mitchell Weiss is an experienced financial service industry executive and entrepreneur, an adjunct professor of finance at the University of Hartford, and a member of the board of that university's Barney School of Business and co-founder of a Center for Personal Financial Responsibility. Mitch is also the author of College Happens, a Practical Handbook for Parents and Students, Life Happens, a Practical Guide to Personal Finance from Career and College. 2 separate books. Mitch is joining us on the show from West Hartford, Connecticut. Hi, Mitch. Welcome to College Smart Radio.
Thanks, Beatrice. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for joining us today. Let's start by sharing a little bit about you and your background.
Well, I teach part-time at the University of Hartford, and I'm pretty active on campus. I began teaching there before I actually retired from banking in 2008. So I started teaching there in 2006, 2007. And I do a fair amount of pro bono counseling, students, both undergrad and graduates and alums as well that are struggling with the debt burdens that they've undertaken for their college education. So I'm quite familiar with this. And you know, my background in the financial services industry, different than yours, is on the lending side. I've spent more than 30 years in that capacity. So you know, my area of interest in particular is credit. You know, how to get it, how to manage it, what to do when things head in the wrong direction. So it's with that, you know, that I approach this particular topic. On a personal level, I worked and borrowed my way through school, and it was not a fun process. I can identify with these kids, you know, for what they are trying to deal with, and I think that there's a better way to go about it.
Well, thanks so much for joining us today. And we've had a couple of shows where we've talked about the $1 trillion in student loan debt that's out there, and something dear to your heart or painful to all of us. Well, let's start a little bit now, and maybe you can give us a little bit of an overview about the handbooks that are available, and they're available, I think, on your website. And then let's talk a little bit about the topic, which is 4 years of college for the price of 3.
Sure. I actually wrote this little handbook. It is on my website, which is mitchelldweiss.com. I wrote this handbook after I had published a financial literacy book, the Life Happens book, and it is that book actually that is the basis for the course that I've been teaching for the past 7 semesters at the University of Hartford. My classes are typically oversubscribed. I've just converted the curriculum to online content this semester, 20% oversold for that. And these kids are great. I mean, they are really tuned into it. I recorded 80-some-odd videos. They're solving problems. But as I began talking about the book and meeting with parents as well as students, I got an awful lot of questions about, well, it's one thing to manage finances on the way into school and on the way out, but how do we prevent this from actually happening? So I decided to sit down a couple of summers ago and just write a handbook for parents that summarizes a lot of the things that I was talking to them about ad hoc and a lot of question and answer sessions at different schools and libraries, community centers, and all the rest, wherever I'm asked to speak. So it's a little handbook. It's not a lot of reading that's there. It's digital only. It's not a print version because there are about 60, 70 hyperlinks that are embedded in the book that lets the reader go to a variety of online sites, tools that they could use to figure out to do the math, and as well as other resources where they could read about the different topics, just educate themselves a little bit further to the extent that they want to. But I do cover the basics on, how you can go about acquiring a college education economically for those, as you put it at the very beginning of the program, where time is money, as it was for me, working during the day, going to school at night, living at home, and wanting to kill myself in the process.
It is wonderful that you have this course available at the University of Hartford. Are you finding that more colleges are offering these types of courses, and are your online courses available to students that are not at the University of Hartford?
Okay, well, when I first put this course up, it was an in-class course, and I read through 5 different textbooks for this course, and cured my insomnia in the process. But these textbooks are just so dense. I mean, they cover all kinds of things. And in each one of my classes, I mean, I have students. University of Hartford is made up of 7 distinct schools. So I have performing arts students, visual arts students, engineers, chemistry majors, health services majors, as well as business majors that are attending these courses. And there's no way that you could deliver this content in the format that's typically presented here with present value formulas and heavy math and calculations and all the rest. These kids just tune out on that. So that's what led me just to write my own book, which I had intended as a mass market book, but I revised to make it a course book after the university adopted it as the official text for the course. So what I found is that you need to deliver information in order for it to stick that students can put to immediate and practical use. And to the extent that they want to reserve certain matters for later on, they can do so. So you have to write it in a particular way and teach it in a particular way. The transition to online was interesting. I mean, it took quite a bit to do this. Learned an awful lot in the process. One of the things is to script myself, so I just don't go running away with it, because people are less patient to see somebody fumble around on a video than they are in class. So, after writing a script for the course and then producing all of these videos, the reaction to the response has been really terrific. So much so that I think that I will put the entire thing online. It is currently for pay online right now, but I think that I'm probably going to make this thing available for free both in iTunes, the iTunes College, YouTube, and a couple of other sites. And people can pick up the course book to go along with it. It's kind of interesting. But
it is very interesting and something that people need. I think any financial responsibility education is wonderful, and that's wonderful that you're part of it. You're doing that as a big part of your program. Okay, let's delve into some of what's in the handbook or your information and talk a little bit about that topic, when time is money, 4 years of college for the price of 3. And start with where do you start with? Or we can go through a couple of points that you would try to educate the students on.
Sure thing. So let's first start by taking a hard look at where you start college. So lots of people approach college with the idea in mind that, well, I want to go to this school. That's the only place I want to go to. I want to go to this particular school. And what we've been finding, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners have been reading as well, is many students, because of time and money considerations, are taking a look at community colleges and accredited online courses as a way to transition to the 4-year school they ultimately want to attend. If you pass by the community colleges in your state, you'll see that the parking lots are full for that reason. The key, though, is if you do have in mind where you want to complete your degree, the 4-year degree, you want to be sure that the courses that you take in the alternative setting are actually going to count towards that degree when you finally go there. So, for example, in Massachusetts, there are a number of community colleges that feed into the University of Massachusetts network. So,
the same thing happens in California, where if you want to look at the UCs, you want to look at some of the state schools or the private schools, you absolutely can start at that college to find out what their requirements are to make sure you take those courses in community college. Mitch, I'm going to take a break right now, just a break, and then we'll be back in a couple of seconds. We're going to talk about when time is money and some other tips that you can get 4 years of college for the price of 3. You're with us on Smart Radio, where my guest is Mitch Weiss. We'll be right back with Mitch on College Smart Radio.
For more information on today's topic, visit collegesmartradio.com or call area code 650-587-1559. College Smart Radio continues in moments on AM 1220 KDOW. Contact Beatrice Schultz at collegesmartradio.com or call area code 650-587-1559. Now, back to College Smart Radio with your host Beatrice Schultz on AM 1220 KDOW.
Welcome back to College Smart Radio, where we help you tackle the runaway costs of college. I'm Beatrice Schultz. I'm talking with my guest, Mitch Weiss, adjunct professor of finance at the University of Hartford and a member of the board of the university's Barney School of Business and the co-founder of its Center for Personal Financial Responsibility. We all know that college is expensive and will most likely be some of the most costly years for a family. Understanding how to be financially literate and navigate the college process to reduce your costs everywhere you can is a smart thing to know. To help families be on this radio show, I host community workshops live and via webinar several times a month that explain the costs of various colleges, how the financial aid system works, and things to consider to prepare yourself for this tremendous expense. You can find my workshop schedule and register at collegesmartradio.com. Mitch, we were just talking about how we can accomplish 4 years of college for the price of 3. And the first example or the first point that you shared with us is considering alternate settings to start, like community colleges. And maybe you can share with us some more ideas about how we can get 4 years of college for the price of 3.
Sure. And the reason why that we focus on the community colleges is because they're far less expensive. They're less than half the cost of the 4-year schools. Speaking as an employer, it matters to me much less where someone may have started out than where they finish up. So I'm not troubled by somebody that's looking to begin more modestly and then move into that 4-year school.
I think that's a great message for parents and for students, that when you graduate with that degree from that 4-year college, there's no asterisk that said, I went to community college for 2 years before and then transferred over. It's that you get that same degree. I think that's great. Thanks for sharing that. That's what you think of as an employer too.
Yes. The next thing is to use the tools that are available online. The government has the College Affordability and Transparency Center, which is, I think, is terrific because it not only displays the costs for all the different schools, but it also shows the inflation rate factor for each one of the schools. And this is really important because the price that you're paying today is not necessarily going to be the price that you pay. It won't be the price that you pay tomorrow and the year after and the year after that. So if a college's costs are historically increasing by 5 or 10%, you're going to be able to budget for that as your son or daughter makes their way through college. So there are a variety of tools that are online to help you do this, including the College Navigator tool, collegeresults.org. There are all kinds of things that you can take a look at, which I did cover in the handbook.
Great.
The next step would be to focus back on these accredited online courses that you may take, or also the tests that you can take. So, for example, most students, and this is astonishing to me, most students are unaware that there's such a thing called college-level examination programs, CLEP tests, which are put out by the College Board, the same good folks that gave you the SATs and the PSATs. Now, these tests have been around for 42 years, and I know because I was one of the first to take them. The tests are 33 subject exams that are accepted by 2,900 colleges across the country. These tests, and some colleges, for example, my college at the time, accepted 12 credits via the CLEP exams. And those 12 credits, for me, cut out a semester of night school. That was fairly significant. The other tests that are available, besides AP tests, there are also SAT subject exams, and many of the colleges themselves offer advanced placement tests. And the key is, when time and money are important, to test out of the core course requirements that are not as important to you as your major area of concentration.
Well, that's interesting, the test. And at what stage do you test out? I'm not that familiar with the CLEP courses either. Is it when you're in high school still, or once you get to college, you take those courses to effectively test out of having to take them? I mean, once you're already a college student, or do you do this in high school before you're starting college?
As you're transitioning from high school to college, so
Okay.
You're in your senior year, take these tests. Take whatever test that you can and make sure that the college does accept them. As I said, there are 2,900 colleges across the country. More than half the colleges in the United States accept these tests for credit. So it's worth taking the exams. But, of course, you don't want to take it unless you know that you're going to get credit for it. Also, there's a preponderance of online courses that are available, and while they may not be accredited, you may still learn enough so that you can take an advanced placement test for those courses and therefore test out of the core course requirement for it. So you could use that free online course a different way, gain the knowledge, take the test out of the course. So I just suggested 12 credits that you can test out of. Then take a look at each semester and take what I call a cost per credit approach. So, for example, at the University of Hartford and most schools, the price of tuition covers full-time students. So if in Hartford, it's 12 to 18 credits, you're considered a full-time student. And the price is the same whether you take 18 credits or 12 credits. So consequently, if you take 12 credits, you're paying 50% more per credit than if you were taking 18. Now, 18 is a heavy load. However, I'm advocating for the students, if they don't want to take 15 for each one of the semesters, take 18 one semester, take 15 the other semester. That extra load will contribute to cutting back the amount of time that you're in school. And in between the semesters, there's nothing stopping you from taking a course or two close to home at a community college or at a state school and transferring the credits in. Most schools have a policy that permits the transfer in, even in your major, of courses that are taken off campus. So all of this together, testing out, taking the crunching up your semesters, all of this contributes to reducing the amount of time that you'd actually be in school, which also has tuition and meal services accompanying it. So you can see that it could be very, very meaningful.
Absolutely, and I think the cost per credit approach or taking a look at the courses you're taking and how many credits each of these courses are and what's available, I think is also an important factor for when we look at, for example, some of the state schools in California that I'm hearing from students, I can't get all the courses that I need. And if you can get all the courses one semester, then take those 18 just in case you can't get all the ones you need that next semester, I think is also very good advice. There are students that are graduating in 3.5 years from these same programs where the student next to them is saying, I couldn't get all my courses. So it takes some organizing. I really like that approach, and I think many people don't recognize that as being so important, because that meal plan, in California, it's costing $10,000 a year for room and board if you're living away from home for a lot of these colleges.
Well, let's talk about that, really quickly. On the meal plan, there's nothing to say that you shouldn't take the least expensive plan. In many schools, they require the freshmen and sometimes sophomores to live on campus and to take the meal plan. They want to ensure that the kids are safe and that they've made the transition from home, the safety of home, into the safety of the campus, and that they're eating properly. But there's nothing to say that you can't scale that back to the most basic food plan and then supplement the meals with do-it-yourself sandwiches. I mean, after all, this is why God invented the mini fridge. Make your own sandwiches, store some yogurt, get some vegetables, and do that in between, and just limit the number of meals that you actually do on campus. And then as you can transition out of the meal plan and be responsible for your own meal making, that will save money. And as for the living arrangements, as soon as you're able to consider moving off campus, take a look at that, because oftentimes, especially in some of these larger apartments, it's less expensive than living in the dorm. But when you do that, you've got to remember that if you're one of 4 or one of 6 that are sharing the apartment, they're going to look at all of you. The landlord will look at all of you as equally responsible for that rent. And somebody's going to be playing banker in this regard. One person is going to be writing the check because the landlord's not going to accept 6 separate checks. So you've got to provide for the possibility that somebody is late on their rent or that a check bounces, and you want to collect that rent at least a week ahead of time before it's due, so that you can ensure that the checks have cleared, they're in the account, and you could write the rent check without any concern. This is where a lot of parents and students get all messed up, and the parents are involved because they're often required to sign as a guarantor with their child on that lease. I did this for both of my kids, as well. So you want to be sure that the other people that are involved in this are responsible, that understand that they have a commitment, they have a responsibility to meet, that they're making a commitment, and you clear all the checks so that you have them done in time. But off-campus living will save money.
And I think that the way that you just shared that, which is that you should consider what options are available to you, is important, because and even your meal plan strategy is so powerful. Once you're used to making sandwiches and managing your meals as part of that learning in your freshman year, then if you are forced to live on campus in your freshman year, when you move off campus, also you're more comfortable to be making your own meals. And the only real examples of where people tend to spend more off campus is if they are going to restaurants, or they're paying late fees, or they're just not managing it properly, which is part of kind of adult responsibility too.
Well, it is. And the last thing that I would say is the other big expense that people are unprepared for is the cost of textbooks. And everybody races around to try to find the used textbooks, but it's really a racket. I just find this egregious. The textbooks that I use for my course, for one of my courses, I teach 2 courses, is updated every other year, and that's a $200-300 textbook by itself. So, a while ago, I permitted my students to share the books. That's what happens in real life. People collaborate. They could share the textbooks. They're all responsible for the work they produce, and if they're foolish enough to work with somebody else that is BSing their way through the questions, then they're going to get the same grade that the other person is getting.
Mitch, I think it's really valuable as a professor to encourage the sharing strategies, because we hear that all the time, that the textbooks are changing, so you can't really buy them used, or the
That's right.
The professors keep changing it. I really appreciate your help, and thank you so much for sharing with us your knowledge. Unfortunately, we've got to cut the show, but thanks for joining us on College Smart Radio.
Thank you very much for having me, Beatrice.
A link to Mitch's website is available on our College Smart Radio website, as well as links to his handbooks that are available for purchase. Well, that wraps up another weekly show of College Smart Radio. We hope you picked up some new information today that helps you figure out ways to manage the runaway costs of college. This is Beatrice Schultz. Thanks for tuning in to College Smart Radio. We look forward to sharing more helpful information with you next week.
You've been listening to College Smart Radio with Certified Financial Planner Beatrice Schultz. If you have questions on today's topic, log on to collegesmartradio.com or call area code 650-587-1559. That's 650-587-1559. Join us next week at this time for another edition of College Smart Radio on AM 1220 KDOW.